Is Monday, February 12th, and this is a joint meeting of the Audit and Rules Committees of the Motor Vehicle Commission. I'm Executive Director Denise Lawrence, and I will read the meeting notice. This meeting's date, time, and location have been noticed on the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission website, included as part of this year's meeting calendar since February 1st, 2024. Additionally, the agenda for this month's meeting has been posted on the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission's website since February 6, 2024, and it's also been noticed on the tn.gov website. Having read the notice, I'm going to call the roll now for each committee separately. First, for the Audit Committee, Commissioner Andrews.
Here.
Is present. Commissioner Barker.
Present.
Is present. Commissioner Kramer.
Here.
Is present. Commissioner Melton.
Present.
Is present. Commissioner Speaker.
Here.
Is present. And Chairman Roberts is present. And I failed to make one announcement before calling the roll. Chairman Roberts has appointed Commissioner Kramer as proxy to both committees. We were worried about having a quorum, and he was kind enough to fill in. So he's going to be participating for each committee. Now I'll call the roll for the Rules Committee, and both Commissioner Copenhaver and Chairman West will both be participating remotely, and in his absence, since Chairman West is not physically with us, Commissioner Vaughn will be chairing in his absence. So, Commissioner Copenhaver is present. Commissioner Elam
Present.
is present. Commissioner Kramer
Present.
is present. Commissioner Vaughn
Present.
is present. Commissioner West is joining us shortly, remotely, and Chairman Roberts
Here.
is present. Madams chairpersons, you have a quorum for both committees. And I will defer to Chairman Melton of the Audit Committee.
Thank you all for all attending today. Your agenda and materials were sent earlier electronically, but have also been loaded on your pads for ease of reference. If you have all had a chance to look at the agenda, I would ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as proposed.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Or we do a roll call, though, haven't we?
We can do roll call or voice vote.
Voice vote.
Roll call? I'm sorry, we can do a roll call if you don't mind.
Okay.
So the motion is to adopt the agenda as presented. Commissioner Melton?
Yes.
Votes aye. Commissioner Andrews?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Speaker? Aye. Votes aye. Commissioner Kramer?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Barker?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts?
Aye.
Votes aye. You have adopted the agenda.
Wonderful. The materials you have before you represent the budget closing documents for fiscal year 20, fiscal year 21, fiscal year 22, and fiscal year 23. This document is reflective of our actual expenditures and revenue. Additionally, you will find a document entitled Motor Vehicle Commission, number 3, which represents the projection for expenditures and revenue for fiscal year 24, fiscal year 25, fiscal year 26, and fiscal year 27. As is reflected in the projection document, without benefit of raising our fees, we will exhaust our existing reserve and be in the red by fiscal year 26. Are there questions, comments about any of these documents?
This may be a question just as someone fairly new to the commission, but as I was looking through it, it looks like one of our big areas of increase has to do with investigation, legal, field enforcement. So is this, I guess, a directive, or is this something that just happened in the market that required more investigation and field enforcement? Or
Thank you, Commissioner Andrews. That is absolutely the million-dollar question, and why I have been pulling my hair out for 3 months. We needed to dig into those numbers. There are multiple reasons why this has happened, not the least of which, and unfortunately you didn't participate in this, but I think if everyone will recall, we had a multitude of protests and hearings before the commission over the last 2 years. We had the Higginbotham, Yeah, the list goes on and on and on. So, and all of those require additional legal hours and investigatory time. Also, a big moving factor in all of this for all of our cost backs was the historical raises that the governor and the legislature gave various state employees or across the board state employees. So that, I mean, some of those costs increased by 30 to 35%. My legal team is diligently watching what they send to investigations, send out for investigation, and really limiting things that we need so that we can hold our costs down as much as possible. But that's absolutely the $1 million question. I wondered the same.
And along those lines, so what you're describing, I mean, in the raises, we've seen that at every level of
Right.
local and state government, which I think has been really important, as we've been dealing with other inflation in the economy and other factors to make sure we've got a professional workforce. But when you're talking about some of those things that required additional investigation, do we expect that trend to continue, or do we feel like this was like a pig in the python, where it was kind of a one-time
I think it was a
deal?
one-off. I really do. I don't know, a myriad of things happened, and it seemed like we were just getting every month another protest, another inquiry, but that we had those set literally for a year out, and I don't think we've got any in the pipeline now. So we had about 5 or 6 that, bless everybody's heart on the commission, I kept sending out this thing with these big yellow arrows saying, keep this date for this potential hearing for Higginbotham or Gossett or whomever it might be. Fortunately, a lot of those things ended up settling, but at the last minute, and it doesn't, help you when you spend all the time and energy and hours in investigating that. So we think it's a one-off, I hope. I haven't seen anything else, but we are keeping a close eye on it.
Yeah, we've changed some things. Hopefully it will decrease the amount of investigation.
You want to?
And as far as from a legal standpoint, we've kind of changed some of the ways we're addressing complaints, where we're trying to decrease the amount of investigations that we request. Whether, that might mean that we're doing more work on our end, but I think cost-wise, it will still cost less for legal to do that legwork instead of sending it out for investigations, because those costs have gone up so dramatically. So we've kind of changed. Hopefully that will, this will cause that to be a one-off in the future.
I don't, I have no problem with, we can't control the protest, and the raises were definitely needed. I've got no problem with that, but I would like to see if we can't get, numbers on a quarterly basis, like how that's going, so we don't get surprises.
Absolutely,
idea.
absolutely.
Okay.
And we will do that going forward. I'll have
Good.
another report for you guys when we meet again in April to let you know where we are thus far in the fiscal year. And the good thing is we have the benefit of the very large fine that was imposed on one of our licensees, but we're still going to be in the red this year.
And I think now Eric and I both have a better understanding of what investigations charging per item line. So we got more in-depth look into that than we've had in the past. So now I think we know kind of, hey, if we need this is going to be a bigger cost as opposed to this, and there's things we can cut out for certain investigations going forward.
I think it's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
We, in the past, until we realized, especially since the cost went up, the fees they were charging went up, the hourly, everything, we weren't really aware of how much that was costing, so it kind of brought it to our attention. And like Taylor said, we, instead of kind of using a standard template for every investigation that we request, because that had never been a problem in the past, we're addressing each complaint on a case-by-case basis and not using a standard template. So in the past, maybe we had the investigator always contact the complainant and get a sworn statement. Well, we might not need that every time, and that's costing a lot of money just to obtain something we might not need. We are kind of prepping for a possible formal hearing with every investigation and getting the things that we might need. And I think we've changed that, where we're only going to get that if we absolutely need it. And I think that will drastically cut down on the hourly fees that investigations are charging us.
Yeah, and prior to about like halfway through last year, we only were able to see how many temp tags were issued if an investigator looked into it, but Erica had them set us up an account where we can log in now and look at that. So things were going out before just because we needed to know how many temp tags were issued and we didn't have information on that, and an investigator was the only one that could get that. Now we have the ability to look that up ourselves. So if that's the only issue, it's not going to go out for them to look into non-problems just to get the temp tag number. We can do that ourselves.
Just another concern I had was when I looked at the numbers, and when I first got on the commission, we had about 200 legal cases per quarter, and now we're down to about 100, 105, somewhere close to that. And then I was still shocked that the number went up. But I do think that if we curtail some of these investigations that don't need to be to that level, that much time, y'all can handle it yourselves, it will help us.
And I think to touch on that, we still are having close to 200 on the legal reports. However, now we've changed how we organize them. So if a dealer has, let's say, like 10 complaints, it's all going under one number. So that's why you've seen the number go down as opposed to, but we pulled all the complaints, and our complaints are only going up. They're not going down over the last few years. So that's another reason too. This is the highest we've had for January in the last 3 years. So.
Well, and another thing I think that's important to note is, especially from the time I came to the Motor Vehicle Commission in December of 2019, and at that point in time, Taylor was here, and then, I'm sorry, I looked at Erica and said, Taylor. Erica was here, and then Taylor came in, and they worked we had probably 200 cases that were over 200, 360 days that had been, just lagging on and on and on. And they worked diligently. We have 0 cases now past,
Good job.
360 days.
Yeah,
So they've really worked hard.
I think
to
Eric
get
and I
those.
both got a lot. When I came in 2021, I had over 100 reassigned to me that were over 360 days, and Erica had over 100 when she came in prior to that. So I think it also was just working through a lot of backlog was a reason for a lot of hours as well.
Any other questions?
Currently, do we have more over 360 days now?
None.
Oh, good. Congratulations.
We actually, I don't even think, we might have a handful over 200 days old. So we're really maintaining
And
that.
those are actually in litigation monitoring, which means that they filed privately. There's something going on between the two individuals privately.
Like in the civil
And so we're waiting to see what comes of that.
And the
So-
reason we do that is because we don't want to make a move and then have something happen in civil court and their case gets thrown out and we pulled someone's license and we had the wrong information. So we tend to wait on those in litigation monitoring until those come through. So those are the only outdated ones we really have.
So, question back about investigation. I think you said you get charged for the investigation. So is that revenue to another department, or are they third party, or what?
Another good question. All regulatory boards are by statute, must be self-sufficient. We maintain our self-sufficiency by charging fees for licensure. Things like investigations and inspections, legal, customer service center, and the complaint center don't generate their own revenue. So those are charged either by an hourly rate. Investigations charge an hourly rate, and then the call center is charged based on number of calls received, or they're called tickets that they create, and the number of complaints that they take. So those costs are shared by all of the different regulatory boards. And for example, there may be 100 investigations that went out, or 100 hours worth of investigations that went out for January, and 50 of those hours belong to Motor V and 50 belong to Cosmo, for example. So, and then there's a whole algorithm that goes into that. So, yes, Chairman and I have spent many hours going over those numbers. So the short answer to your question is we're not providing revenue for anybody else, but we're paying for the service. And those services have to be paid for by someone.
And another observation, just for everyone here to know, the fees, we generally run in the red one year.
Yes.
In the next year, we're in the black.
Yes, sir.
And it's because we have most of the renewals every 2 years.
Right. Well, we'll run in the red during the even years, and the odd years when our bigger ticket licensees, like auctions, like manufacturers and distributors, those all come to you in the odd year. I mean, everybody else is pretty much, it depends on when you first got your license, right? Whatever year. But for manufacturers and distributors and auctions, those all renew in the odd year. So that's supposed to be the year that we make money. And typically, I understand what happened prior to my tenure is that we would run in the red about 200,000 in the even years, and then in the odd years, we'd be in the black about 200, 250. So we'd take a little bit from our reserve, and then we'd add back to our reserve. But it looks like we're at the point now that there's not going to be anything to add to. And I might mention, and I don't know how many, we were talking about this before the meeting actually got started. The Motor Vehicle Commission hasn't raised fees on its licensees for 14 years. The last fee increase came in 2010. So, I mean, it's not something that I'm recommending, willy-nilly, just, hey, let's raise fees so we can get out of the hole. I mean, we looked at it for a long time.
So I've seen that happen before where fees just don't get reviewed. Are we recommending, or should we consider something to do a more regular review going forward rather than every 14 years?
You can certainly do that, and I mean, I keep an eye on, I get a monthly statement and keep an eye on where our expenditures are going. I wasn't concerned. I knew we were going to be in the red, but then it was going to even out, but it didn't. So, and I think a lot of that came very late in 2023, a big bulk of that because of the increase across the board in salaries and stuff. So that it just increased everything. But yes, I mean, I plan on going forward, especially at our April meeting, and then going forward, I'll give you updates. I guess they'll be quarterly on where we stand.
I think that will work. I don't think we need to set any dates of a regular meeting for the subcommittees, but I do think that if you'll let us know how it's going, and we review that, we get those numbers, then we can decide if we need to meet to have to raise something or adjust. So.
If there are no more questions, I think, Commissioner Melton, you had asked for a motion.
Yes, yeah. I would entertain a motion to adopt the budget projections as presented without fee increase and recommend that the Rules Committee consider raising our fees. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Executive Director, you want to call the roll, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, you have a motion and a second to adopt the projections as presented to the committee without benefit of a fee increase. Commissioner Melton?
Yes, yes.
Votes aye. Commissioner Andrews?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Speaker?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Kramer? Aye. Votes aye. Commissioner Barker?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts?
Aye.
Votes aye. You have adopted those projections. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. He sure did. I apologize. No, you don't get to vote yet, Commissioner West. No, not. You're on Rules Committee, not Audit. Okay.
That's good.
Okay. You got it. I think, I apologize, I lost my script.
Now it's time to turn it over to Commissioner Vaughn.
There you go.
Thank you, Commissioner Melton.
You're quite welcome.
For members of the Rules Committee, you have seen the budget closing docs and the projections without benefit of the fee increase. Are there any questions? I would draw your attention to the document 4, Budget Overview with Fee Increase. This document represents staff recommendation for the 50% across-the-board fee increases for all licenses. The second page in this document reflects revised projections with the implementation, I can never say that word, of this fee increase. Those specific changes have been provided in your red line document for the rulemaking hearing. I'll defer to our program attorney, Neil, for further explanation.
Chairperson Vaughn, draw your attention to the red line document that's been provided. So the first rule is one that we've talked about before. This is on 0960-01-.06, notice of termination, cancellation, or non-renewal. And this relates to at least one of the protests the commission has dealt with in the past, where there was a petition for reconsideration. And in order to decide that, the whole commission had to come together to decide it, because there was no rule that we had to delegate that. So what this does is it delegates to the chairperson or acting chairperson of the commission that authority to grant or deny a petition for reconsideration of a final order, and with the last caveat that this decision shall be reported to the full commission. So that's your first rule there that's noted on the red line document. The next set of rule changes that are proposed are housekeeping items that periodically the Code Commission will change the numbering on our statutes, and that's what happened here. What was in 129 is now in 128. So I won't read those verbatim, but those are the next 3 rule changes that you have there. And at the bottom of, I believe it's the bottom of page 2 of the red line document, that's where the proposed changes are regarding the fee increases. So you'll see the first one changes the, for each manufacturer, distributor, factory branch, or distributor branch, changes the license fee from $1,600 to $2,400. Then the next increase is for each manufacturer, distributor, per franchise dealer in Tennessee. It changes it from $50 to $75. And then the next changes for each motor vehicle dealer selling new or used motor vehicles from $400 to $600. The next one is for each factory representative or distributor representative. It changes the fee from $400 to $600. And the next one changes the fee for each motor vehicle salesperson from $35 to $50. The next one changes for each automotive dismantler and recycler from $400 to $600. And the next one changes for each automobile auction from $800 to $1,200. And the next one changes for each recreational vehicle dealer from $400 to $600. And that concludes all the proposed changes related to increase in license fees. And then your last item there is removing the requirement for registered or certified mail. A lot of programs have already done that, but we were not looped in on that change, so this is to create uniformity and bring us into that, bring us uniformity with programs and departments where that requirement has been eliminated. So those are the proposed rule changes that are before you there for your consideration.
Questions or discussions from the?
Quick question. How long has it been 35? It seems like it's been $35 forever.
Another good question. As I mentioned earlier, we have not raised license fees across the board for 14 years. The last fee increase came in 2010. However, in 2010, I just re-looked at the minutes, and the licensure fee for salesperson was not touched, so it remained at $35. I don't know how long it's been $35.
Literally, I think it's been forever. I mean, I can't remember the last time we changed it.
The only thing I'm concerned on that, Commissioner Barker, is just pushback. You know, it's the only one I can see on this whole schedule that might have some pushback. Now, I'm not saying we need to keep it at 35. I'm just saying we might want to bump it down a little bit, just so there's not as much political pushback.
Has been in place forever, and I would say
It
that
has.
this state has got to be one of the, I don't know how to compare it to other states, but $35 has got to be one of the cheapest in the country, I would guess.
I think 50 is reasonable personally. it's been 20 years plus. I mean, you think about the expense going up and how much time it takes for y'all to go over these licenses, especially when there's a problem or an issue or questions. I mean, it's,
Well, and I will say without a doubt, from the program perspective, $35 does not cover the cost, just the administrative cost of us processing the license. Whatever the fee increase is certainly up to the commission. If I had projected it at an actual 50% increase, it was something like $52.50, and I just thought 50 seemed more reasonable. But that is certainly up to you. I think Chairman Roberts has a valid point. I don't foresee any pushback, frankly, from the legislature on the rest of these because it has been 14 years, and I don't see how anybody could have an argument against that. But I could see that, the salesman increase may invite discussion. I don't know. I mean,
I would
I
bet
don't
that
have
our license fee, if you compared it to, you pick any other profession that requires a license, I would imagine this, even at $50, is still extremely reasonable. That's my opinion.
it wouldn't put an undue burden, I wouldn't think, on dealers.
well, and that's $25 a year. I mean, it's a 2-year license, $25 a year, so.
Well, I'm not against it. I'm just saying that we could have pushback, and I do think we might. But
Well, and if $15 every 2 years is going to keep them out of the automotive sales business, they might be in the wrong line of work.
That's very true. That's very true. I mean, I think about the background checks I do with my employees. It's $50 a pop. I mean, and to me, that's worth it. It's also worth it to make sure that the salespeople understand how serious it is to follow the laws of the state of Tennessee. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents.
We spend money to run Carfax on everything to protect the consumer, and I would like for people to really put a lot of thought into, is $50, and to me, that's still too cheap, honestly, what we spend just to make sure that we're presenting used vehicles properly, and we got people standing up there begging for their license, and we grant a lot. I promise they're not going to, $50 to them is an absolute bargain.
Other questions or comments?
are there any other, I'm just asking the whole commission, do you see anything that's too low or too high in there? We don't have to follow the 50%, do we?
No, sir. That was staff recommendation, and I provided projections based on that just to give you an idea of what sort of revenue that would generate.
Mission is trying to attract a higher quality individual that wants to make this their line of work. You could make that $250 if you wanted. Yeah, you would get some pushback there, but what are we really trying to attract in this line of work? Quality people that are willing to pay that, and they're not going to want to, I don't know, I'm stunned that the $50 in any way is going to be controversial, honestly.
Further discussion?
Well, we're talking about the other categories too. Do you see anything out of line?
I know prior to our commencing the meeting, there was some conversation about the auction fee and if that needed to be increased by another amount. I'm just reminding.
I would say, and while I'm rolling here, I would say that's low. Honestly, if you looked at other states, I would bet you that Tennessee's one of the lowest in the country, at least in the southeastern part. Because I know at the auto auction, they will fee you without any hesitation as a dealer.
Amen.
I mean, without any hesitation. So that seems, if you break that down by the month, what they have to pay, that seems, there should be some opportunity potentially there.
I agree.
I mean, they have to have that license to exist, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What should it be?
And we have approximately 30 in the state.
If you raised it 100, it wouldn't be much impact.
I mean, we've taken it, the 50% takes it from 800 to 1,200. You could raise that to 2,400. I'm just looking at what the manufacturer distributor is, but that may be unreasonable. I don't know.
You know, the auctions that would have a problem with this, the smaller auctions, are the ones that put us in this predicament to begin with, in my opinion, a lot of times. What they're selling and out to the general public, sometimes, the big auction on the bigger auctions wouldn't bat an eye at $2,500. But some of the smaller ones in smaller communities might think that's excessive. But if you think about it, that's the ones we typically have issues with, those type vehicles. So, but they have to have a license to operate. I don't think that's a gouge in it by any means. $2,500 to operate an auto auction, that seems cheap to me, honestly.
And I don't disagree with the comment at all, but while we're raising everything 50%, maybe if we do it consistently this year and then revisit it later if we think some others need to be singled out. Because if we're raising all of them 50% and single some out for 75 or 100%, it may come across differently than we mean it to.
I think you're right.
That's a good point. But if we're really trying to make this industry clean this up and really get, it should be a privilege to do what we do. But the fees don't indicate that. Anyone can do it.
Well, you think about it, though, if they are licensed, they're following the rules, and if they're not following the rules, then that's where we have the opportunity to find them and make sure that, we're not, that they're being punished for violating the laws that they said they understand. So I mean, my personal opinion is I like the way we've done this. I think this is the right call for the increases. And it warrants looking at when the staff feels like that we need to, again, hopefully not 14 years.
I just wonder, what is representatives? What is that category?
That's the sales reps, isn't it, for the manufacturers?
Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm looking at the odd thing going on my computer. That's what that is.
Okay.
The manufacturer representatives.
Are the manufacturers good about having their representatives licensed? Because I've seen where in the past, maybe some are not, and they've done that now, but I just wondered how consistent we are on that.
We have one person on our staff who usually processes all of those, and everything that I've ever heard from her is that she's gotten good response, and she's very
Oh, that's good.
dedicated about reaching out to them in advance too, to say, hey, your license is coming up for renewal. So I think we have about 400 of those in the state.
Other comments or anything? I'd entertain a motion to adopt the staff recommendation and the red line for rulemaking document. Is there a motion from the Rules Committee?
Commissioner Elam, make a motion.
Great. Is there a second? Kramer. Second. Great. Thank you. Will you do a roll call vote, please? Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The motion is to adopt the staff recommendations and the full red line as presented by legal counsel. Commissioner West?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Elam? Votes aye. Commissioner Copenhaver?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Kramer?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts?
Aye.
Votes aye. You have adopted the staff recommendations unanimously.
Is there any additional business? Chairman Roberts, do you have anything else?
Nope, I don't.
Staff, anything else? Wonderful. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Anybody?
So I'll make that so moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Good deal.
Thank you.
Pretty,
Thank you.